Right, welcome back to episode 5 of Meals in Minutes. This is where we talk things health and fitness with a range of health professionals. And today we are talking to Melanie Walters. Hi, Melanie. How are you?
Hi, Chris. I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Now, Melanie is a low carb dietitian working at Sante Medical, sorry, in Paddington in Brisbane. And Melanie, most of your clients, is it fair to say, are in that sort of insulin resistant diabetic space? Is that right?
Definitely. I see a lot of people sort of, getting that bit older and things are starting to slow down. So a lot of people sort of ranging from 40 to 60 and older. So they've just got often that sort of stubborn weight gain that happens as we age. And then, we do a range of testing, and it usually turns out that people are either, pre-diabetic, diabetic, or they're in that phase of insulin resistance where they've got that elevated insulin before any actual signs of diabetes.
Yeah, right. Okay. And so, for you as the dietitian, pretty integral role in managing and helping these clients. Okay, so let's say I'm a 40-year-old male. I'm actually 42, 42-year-old male. I come to you, I've gained a bit of weight. What's the first step? Like, how can you help me?
Well, usually, what I want to do is take a look at your day-to-day diet, as we do as dietitians, and look at usually where we can reduce the carbs. And depending on, a person's motivation levels, we can go in quite hard and go for a very low carb sort of diet, or we can just make some tweaks to make some better carb choices and lower the overall carb hit for the day, really. So it depends on the client, depends on their motivation levels, really. But
I love that you say that. Like, so it depends on the client. So let's say, my favorite food is pizza and pasta, and you're probably not going to go hell for leather with someone like that, are you? But it's about trying to improve. Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. It's interesting that the motivation of the client is so crucial. Like I remember from clinic, I'd have clients going, "Oh, well, my friend said you've done this for them," and it's like, yeah, but you're slightly different to them. We can't do the exact same thing for everyone.
Exactly. And sometimes you've got to, as much as I'd like to put everyone on, a whole foods, all natural kind of approach, sometimes you've got to look at people's lifestyle. And if someone's getting takeaway 3 times a week, sometimes you've got to talk to them about buying the burgerless bun at McDonald's. Like it's, you've got to take a practical approach.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not even in the, realm of thought for a lot of people, that they don't even know those things exist a lot of the time, do they?
Exactly. Or talking to people about why it is actually better, if they're going to drink a soft drink the diet soft drink. I have people come to me and say, "Oh, diet soft drink is going to give you cancer," but look at all the other choices you're making in your day, and diet soft drink is probably the least thing that's harming you at the moment.
I would say that is probably one of the more common conversations I have is, like the diet soft drink. Yes, they're terrible, but so is a bucket ton of sugar.
Exactly.
Like,
I have that conversation so often. Obviously I would like everyone to be just drinking water, but it's someone's not going to jump from 2 liters of Coke a day to 2 liters of water. So you've got to meet them where they are and work through it with them.
It's heroin to methadone kind of thing. We're just trying to step you off this stuff. So why? So just if you could explain to the listeners, why is low carb so good for someone that is insulin resistant?
It's really beneficial because the problem with carbohydrates is that they have the strongest blood sugar response. So the more carbohydrate load you have in any one meal, the higher your blood sugar response is going to be, and therefore the higher your insulin response is going to be. So by really lowering that carbohydrate, you can really lower those insulin levels, and that's what we're really after, to sort of resensitize the body to the insulin when we do have it. So
so it gives them the most immediate effect, like in terms of
exactly. It allows them. The idea is that you can allow people to access their own fat stores again, which is really really the aim.
So, and this is how I always explain it to my clients. So you pull me up if you do something differently, but like I explain to them that carbs aren't necessarily to blame, even though they share a lot of the responsibility, but they're the thing that can give you the most immediate control of your sugars, can't they? Like they're a fantastic management technique. So we do it. We need to lower your carbs because you're insulin resistant.
Exactly, and it can really help people with their hunger levels too, I find, because they're off that blood sugar roller coaster. So the problem is you eat carbs, you have elevated blood sugar, and then you have that dip, and that's when you're tired and hungry and looking for food again. But if you can kind of flatten that curve a lot, you can control your hunger a lot. And with
sorry, you go.
I was going to say, with the reduction in carbs, generally something has to increase. So I usually aim for protein more than fat with the majority of clients, and that keeps people fuller as well, giving them more bang for their calorie bucks.
Yeah, I mean, and a high protein diet is one of the consistent findings you see for weight loss too. Is that it tends to be a consistent theme, doesn't it? So, and this cohort tend to need to lose some weight, obviously, as well.
Exactly, and that higher protein is also about maintaining what muscle mass people have as well, while they're in a potentially in a calorie deficit. So.
Actually, something else I love about this too, Mel, is that, and I learned this a few years ago, was that, like, when we look at calories on a label, the real benefit of protein, so like the calories on a label or kilojoules on a label is just what's being consumed, but carbs and fat, a fair portion of that is absorbed and can be sort of stored or used. But with protein, it's only about 75% of it. So the calories that we get from protein on that label, it's not all available for energy. So it's another reason why a higher protein diet is better for weight loss, because it's got to be used for all these other purposes rather than used as energy, and if we don't use it, stored as fat. So high protein,
that energy from the protein source, isn't it? Like it's going to go into rebuilding things before it's going to be used as energy.
So how do you go about it, Mel? Because there's some great products on the market food-wise, I find now. Like I use the Slendia soybean pastas as a great low-carb option. Are there other products that people can use that you recommend?
There's lots of breads and wraps around at the moment, and I found that's really helped in the last probably even 6 months. I've seen a big increase in breads and wraps for people, and a lot of people, I find that lunch is a real problem. With clients, they need something easy, they need something quick, and offering them some sort of bread or wrap to put their protein and salad into can really just make life a bit easier than just saying, oh, if you could just have a salad with some protein, just those. Yeah. And even the high protein yogurts are a good one as well, because they're pretty low in sugars and carbs as well. So there's just a bit more flavor available. I've been sort of practicing this way for a while, and those products have really helped make the switch.
Yeah, I agree. They make it easy for clients that it's not too far from where they started from.
Exactly.
But then when you can get them to test their postprandial blood glucose, so their blood glucose after a meal, and they can see, well, I've just eaten a sandwich or I've just etten a wrap, but my sugars aren't through the roof off this meal. It sort of solidifies for them. Yeah. So what made you say you've been practicing this area for a while, Mel? What got you into this low carb area?
Well, to be honest, I only retrained as a dietitian about 5 years ago, and I've been eating low carb probably since my early 30s, so about 14 years now. So I found an Atkins book in a secondhand bookshop. I was like, this is interesting, and gave it a go years ago. Then went back to uni and studied dietetics, and was very much pushed in the direction of higher carb, lower fat, which is still what is practiced really a lot of the time. And then I met up with a low carb dietitian who runs her own practice a few years ago, and started practicing with her. And it was more difficult because at my current practice now, I see a lot more people who are heavily motivated, who have sought us out. But in my previous role was more care plans and things like that. So people were a bit more resistant. And that was definitely where I had to, really be meeting people where they are and making those changes from sugar sweetened beverages to artificially sweetened, or to using the wraps and the breads and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting field. It's interesting that you say, like what is sort of promoted to us, because I mean, the dietary guidelines, like there's a heavy reliance on carbohydrate, but I guess that the thing that I suggest to clients when they come and say, well, the guidelines are saying this, it's like they're not recommending a heap of processed crap.
Yes.
Like it's and I often refer to the blue zones. Are you familiar with the blue zones?
Yes, love the blue zones.
They're primarily a carbohydrate-based diet, but I had this chat with a low-carb doctor. So sorry, I probably should elaborate further. The blue zones are these areas where there's high concentrations of people living to 100 with minimal chronic disease, but their carbohydrate is so different to the carbohydrate that we see. Like it's all
different legumes and like freshly made bread, and they're working in their garden for 8 hours and walking to town. Yeah,
exactly.
And if people wanted to eat carbs like that, then sure. And also, I think the thing for me is that I'm using the carbohydrate restriction to get people back into a place of health. as well. You know, so I think a lot of people, you know, if you're not insulin resistant and you're, you know, metabolically well, then definitely eat your wholemeal breads or your sourdoughs and your legumes. But you know, I think there's a spectrum of required carbohydrate restriction.
Well, it's like I was saying, it's a case by case basis, isn't it? And it's like that's right. If you're not in an insulin resistant, state of health, and we can get you to eat that whole food diet. Because I had this conversation with a low carb doctor a number of years ago, and I agree with what he's saying. Like he said, the conversation is actually now moving away from low carb, low fat to more whole food versus processed, and that ultra processed. And it's, if we can get people on a whole food diet, absolutely there's carbs there and there's fat there, but it's not that highly processed stuff. But I'm like you. Like if I most of the work that I had was people coming through on a care plan, and lower carb got results for those insulin resistance people. So of course that's what I'm messaging now. I'm not saying don't ever eat carbs, but you've got to be aware that this is the thing that's going to keep the sugar up if we don't moderate the amount that you have.
Exactly.
Yeah. So all right. So Mel, you've have a lot of success with your clients by reducing their carb and being able to control their blood glucose levels. Where can people find you? I've got your Instagram handle up there, but for anyone just listening to this, not seeing it, is your Instagram the best?
Yeah, but also I work out of a low carb medical practice in Paddington. It's called Sante Medical. And so we have a lovely low carb GP there, a functional medicine doctor, and it's just a lovely practice. So you can find me and my colleagues there.
And your Instagram, for anyone only listening to this, is Melanie, so MELANIE Walters, as in Kevin Walters, dietitian. All right. Well, thank you for your time today, Mel. Anyone? Yeah. One other thing to add to that, if anyone was looking for an online, like let's say they're not in Paddington, they're not in Brisbane, are you doing online consults?
Yeah, I'm happy to do telehealth anywhere in Australia.
And what about with the GPs there and the functional medicine doctors?
Yeah, they can do telehealth as well. They're happy to do telehealth. I think there's no Medicare rebate for initial telehealths, I think, if I'm correct. But yeah, we are happy to see people Australia-wide.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Mel. It was
thank you
much
for your
appreciated.
time. It's lovely to be on.
All good. All right. Thanks, Mel. Have a good day.
Thanks. You too. Bye.